So, ladies and gentlemen, as Ravin rightly said, it is time to kickstart with a wonderful discussion. Joining me on the screen, as you can see, are some prominent guests. First up, Anil Singh, MD, Procam International. Anil, how are you doing?
How are you, Bhavna? All well?
Yes, all's well. All's well. It's so good to see you today.
And you, and you, and you. Thank you for having us here.
Pleasure is all ours. We do have Rabindra Narayan, MD and President, PTC Network. How are you doing, Mr. Narayan?
Great, always a pleasure to see you, Bhavna.
Pleasure is all mine. We do also have Abhinav, Jain, co-founder, ALMOND and ATechnos joining us. Hi, Mr. Jain. How are you doing?
Awesome. Always good seeing you all. Hi, Anil Hi, Rabindra ji.
Hi, buddy. How are you?
Great, sir.
And if I could also have Mr. Deepak Pawar, Director, Streamy, joining us. Hello, Deepak. How are you doing?
Hey, hi. Good afternoon, everyone, and the great panelists and everyone out there. Thank you, Bhavna, for it.
Pleasure. So, ladies and gentlemen, this topic is very interesting, and it is for sure all about engaging. It is about driving more value, and the topic given to us is making virtual events deliver more value and drive engagement. What's new in the virtual events and venue space? So we couldn't have had a better panelist joining us today. So let's delve directly into the topic. First up, I'd like to ask my panel for the opening thoughts. We've transitioned from the physical to virtual space, and I'd like to know from all of you, how has the virtual space been so far for your company? And also, if you could tell us about the unique project, one of your unique projects, or any unique offerings which you have done all this while. So I'll start off with Mr. Singh. Anil, if you could shoot away right there with your opening thoughts.
Well, I think virtual has been a wonderful inclusion in our lives. A little bit forced with the pandemic, for sure. But, a good thing to happen, because it's been so much more inclusive. You can get your messaging across. You can make so many different innovations. You can engage. You can communicate. You can do so many things, and you can influence. So that's a wonderful addition to our world. That is something we can't deny. And we're so delighted to be more thrust into it, if I may put it that way. In terms of a project, I think there's a fantastic story that we sort of initiated last year with Procam did. And it was actually something that is part of our culture, because Procam is the single largest platform today for charity in many ways. It's been fantastic. Our distance running vertical, which are namely our four major events, which is the Tata Mumbai Marathon, et cetera, has sort of raised about close to 400 crores for charity, over 700 NGOs in the last 19 years. So it's been a fantastic story. So in the same way, when Give India, we were talking about it, and we wanted to do something for the people who had lost their livelihoods last year, and with the oncoming of the pandemic, we interestingly in Procam designed a wonderful concept, and it was finally rolled out as Sunfeast India Runners One. But what it was it had three major foundations, if I put it that way. One was, of course, to be able to contribute to the situation that's at hand, which at that time was getting worse every day, every hour actually. The second was your own wellness, your own being. And the third being community, so you could engage. So this was all about getting involved at your own time, your own space, your own venue, your own convenience, participating not only from the health point of view, from your community engagement, just to be able to believe, to be able to be a part of it, to be able to have a purpose. So that was the thing. And fantastic news was that we had over almost 500,000 kilometers being sort of achieved with all the participants who did it at their own time. And, almost 3.26 crores raised in charity. So that was a great story, from that point of view. And we realized that you can do so much. If you just venture, you can still do a lot. So that was a great learning. And of course, the new affair is another story altogether, but please.
Right. Firstly, Anil, we got to give you kudos, and let's just give him virtual applause on that.
Thank you.
It's so brilliant because, we all are sitting at our respective places, but making it happen all on virtual space, it's in itself a true inspiring story. And what you're doing with your company and your initiatives definitely will go long way ahead. So thank you so much, Anil, firstly, for inspiring us on that. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So let's head to Deepak. Deepak, firstly, a very good afternoon. Great having you on the platform today and the wonderful summit. I'd like to know your thoughts as well, your opening thoughts, firstly, on how the virtual space has been treating you, and also about some unique initiatives which you've taken in. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Bhavna. Anil and me have been interacting for years. Abhinav, Rabindra, and all of us out here, Ruhail, Dr. Batra. I think we have been a part of this movement. I'm the director for Streamy, and I also run an experiential company called Midas, which has been there for 28 years. So I've been there in the industry for a while. So being in an experiential industry and then being the secretary for EMA, what happened was the 21st March last year when the lockdown happened. I think Anil did too many shows at that time also with us. So we at EMA had to go live. We wanted not to sit idle. We wanted, all artists were sitting Vela, everybody was free. So we got, from morning, we started doing this wellness program to the Michael Menezes series, to the leadership series, to evening artists coming on the platform. So we started doing these Zoom meetings. That was, the Zoom was there. We any which way were used to doing these Zoom meetings, and we started organizing these events. And we were doing this every day. We did 150, 150, 200 events during that period of that lockdown, that beginning of that lockdown itself. Suddenly we realized that we have lost all our business. I don't know what we are going to do in future. And we realized that our corporates had nowhere to go. They were doing their team meetings and all that stuff. So I would say geography has become history, and you can be sitting in any part of the world and operating out of any. So here started the corporate world asking for a solution. Zoom was the solution. Zoom had again those problems which were coming up. People were coming in between and all. They went to Teams. They were using WebEx. Government was using WebEx and all. We thought of creating one platform where we could, bring in people on our platform. Yes, there is an Amazon service. There's a lot of tech gyan, always there. So I believe virtual events are standing on three pillars, 33% is technology, 33% is content, and 33% is a role of a virtual event manager or the experiential people like us who understand how to deliver these experiences. So together, me and Sachin Talwar, who's another Wow Events from, so we partnered together and formed this company called Streamy Tech. You won't believe we just started. We were, I think, working with more than 20-25 of our event companies also. Besides that, we are working with Government of India. We are working with now UAE government to that extent that I think Indian businesses have become less so much as that you are working in UAE, you're working with Singapore. So countries are actually picking up our platform, using our platform, and we have no time to breathe. We are averaging at 2 or 3 events a day. So that's the situation. I think the best part I would say right now is we are doing the BNI. I don't know if all of you know what BNI means. Yeah. So today there's a large event of BNI while I am speaking out here. Mac and Srinivas and all these international people all are there on that platform of ours, and there are thousands of them actually onto the exhibition areas and the other areas, and there's a beautiful event happening. We are loving this. So I think my experiences I have said. So that's from my end.
That's brilliant. I think we have to give him an applause as well. So much work happening, gentlemen. I really wish I was in the physical setup and I could have applauded all of you together. But Deepak, definitely you're absolutely bang on when you say that there's so much work happening right there, and the way you are expanding with your team in various venues and various parts of the society. So doing the global events and right from the ministry ones, it's so good to know what you are doing. So thank you for that, Deepak, and kudos to your team. Let's move on to Rabindra. Rabindra, Mr. Narayan, firstly, congratulations. Your network's been doing brilliant. I've been seeing so many updates. And I've been very active in following your posts and understanding your work. I'd love to know how the virtual space, when it comes to your network, has been doing, because you've got these huge physical events which you used to do earlier. And, could you tell us about something unique which has happened, which you'd like to highlight?
the most amazing work that we do has been our PTC Punjabi Film Awards. We do it year after year, and 2020 was its 10th anniversary. So we have planned, we'll do a big gala. Each year we have 6,000 to 8,000 people. This time we'll ensure there are almost 10 to 15,000 people in Mohali. There was a hydraulic set and everything was being designed. And suddenly the pandemic hit us. And March is the time when this happens. And March, we got the lockdown. Venue cancelled, all planning shifted. And everybody said, let's postpone it. Let's not do it now. There's no fun. I mean, without a ground event, how do you do a televised live award show? But then we thought, no, this is not done. I mean, the industry has been working throughout the years. There's been so much work. And suddenly we said, no, we can't recognize you because we are in the lockdown. So we all of us brainstormed what to do. The challenge was the event was to be done virtually, but it wasn't just an online event. It was to be televised at the same time on television also. So you need broadcast quality. You needed 4K for HD for your digital beams and standard definition for your television and various other factors. So we all brainstormed, we created a virtual set. And then we did a few dry runs and we did a curtain raiser on May 29th, and we scheduled it for 3rd of July. And everybody said the technology is untested. We're taking a risk of doing this. I said, no, let's do it. At the most, what will happen? We will fail. So we will fail, not to worry. And then we created a virtual set, and then out of there we did tie-ups with all these celebrities, artists who come to the digital set. They had never done that before. I mean, films are shot. Some scenes are shot in special effects category on some virtual mode, but not events per se. So ultimately, we had Divya Datta anchoring from Bombay, Gurpreet Guggi anchoring from Mohali, Gippy Grewal in Jalandhar, and the dancers were in our Delhi studio. We merged all of them onto one virtual set. They were talking to each other, narrating things, presenting awards. They were participants who were from all over the world, from Canada, from Birmingham, from Australia. And actually, it turned out to be quite good. And it was amazing to see that nobody could make out that they're not in the same city. They're not talking to each other at the same time right now in the same place. And they're in different cities, talking to each other from different cities, matching the looks and standing at the designated place, walking around on the set. So all that was brilliant. But in the end, the greatest learning was, it was a great experiment. And we saved a hell of a lot of money. Each year, about 200 to 250 stars, film stars, music stars, performers from all over the world have to get on Converge for this event. There are hotels hired, there are cars hired, there are food, hospitality, then rehearsals, the performances, set, the sound, light, everything the works is taken place. There are almost 600 to 650 people working behind the scenes to create the event for these 4 or 5 hours. All of that suddenly was gone. All those expenses gone, and we thought, how will we create the buzz? The buzz was the same, and we got more eyeballs. We could promote it well. It was going simultaneously on Facebook, YouTube, TV channel in US, in Canada, in UK, in Australia, on different beams. The worldwide audience was together glued on to it, and nobody could make out that they were missing a ground show. Ultimately, it's 8,000 people who are on the ground, but millions watch it ultimately on TV or on online. So those millions were actually there. And the fact is that we could create that grandeur by focusing more on the experience as well as the content. See, the key to success in all these virtual events is the script, the content, the participants, their fan following, their stature. Now, in any event that you do on ground, you can't have 100% participation. Somebody is busy somewhere, somebody is busy somewhere, somebody is shooting, somebody is recording, somebody is doing something, so they can't land up. So 30 to 35% dropouts of the award winners, nominees, or performers would always be there. This time, there were no dropouts. Everybody was available from wherever they were. And in different cities, different towns, they didn't have to leave. Many of them did not even have to step out of their home, and they were part of the show. So that was a very, very amazing thing, and that led us to believe that all future events now will be hybrid.
Wow.
It might happen on ground in a limited manner, but the audience, the possibilities, the creativity that you build on into your virtual hybrid sort of an event is unparalleled. Now, my USA had different branding, different set elements, sponsors, car parked on the set. UK had a different set. India had a different one. Whereas earlier, when we used to do, we would only have the physical set, which was in India. We couldn't change anything, we couldn't do anything. And we had to play around with that only. So the possibilities became very, very endless. And the creativity actually is far more in virtual and hybrid events. That's what we've discovered. So most of it is going to be like this now. The pandemic actually has set a precedent and set a system where actually the participants feel comfortable joining in. The audience is there at their own comfort level. So it's here to stay. It's here to stay. It's cost effective, and it's more far-reaching and more effective.
Absolutely, Mr. Narayan. I have to say one thing. It's very interesting to hear when you say that, your future events, you're looking at hybrid events from now on, because, a huge network as yours ruling it in the sector, it could be a precedent for the other channels as well, and for the other network companies to follow. So kudos to that. Again, an applause, mighty efforts for that local concert happening. That's kudos to you and your team. I'll quickly move on to Abhinav. Abhinav, firstly, a very good afternoon. Welcome on this platform. We've collaborated on multiple events, Abhinav, and it's good to see you today. I'd love to know how the virtual space is treating you, of course, with your company giving the virtual offering, and anything unique that you'd like to highlight to the audience today.
So, Bhavana, it's always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm very inspired here after listening to Mr. Singh, Rabindra ji, as well as Deepak. Fortunately, I come from a technology background. For the last 17 years, I was only doing which is creating amazing technology solutions. So I need to have all of your blessings out here, first of all. For me, virtual event is actually not new. In 2016, probably in 15, we did a very large scale technology event called CM Samvad for one of the state CM. And what we learned there that this is how the future would be. So we started creating a digital experiences solutions, which is what ALMOND, my company, stands for. It stands for Activating Last Mile on Digital. Fast forward in 2020, we started seeing sudden requirements of virtual events. So the concepts that we started in 2017 were plugged in together to deliver a powerful experiences on video, virtual plus digital formats, if you would say. We started a journey very uniquely. It was not a virtual event. Something came out of mind. Couple of agency leaders, we all were working together, and we did India's, probably world's largest musical concert for PM Cares. That's called Sangeet Setu. Over the last 3 days, almost 25 crore listeners attended the event on 40 plus platforms, including our own platform. That was pretty accelerating because it was a not-for-profit. It was only just to help the country in one way or another. And then also our 2020 ended with another mega large, work that we did for Ministry of Health called India International Science Festival, which became world's largest concert for science, conference for science, where we bagged 5 Guinness Book of World Records for hosting largest conferences ever. So I feel that these are not unique, but these are very important for the companies like us who have been into technology, venturing into experiential tech space. And the focus that we always curated, while I think the industry is always thinking of copying a physical space into virtual space, coming from a totally different background, I could think these events from a digital first approach, and that made these events and experiences very unique. I think these were 2 things that I thought would be very interesting for all of us to know, because it is not about how you offer engagements. It is actually about how you deliver real experiences on a digital space. And when I say digital, it's actually a 16:9 screen and a touch most of the time.
Right, absolutely, Abhinav. Firstly, kudos to you and your company, coming with 17 years of background in tech and preparing it, let's say, in 2017, and suddenly the surge of virtual events. I can just imagine the kind of work which would have gone with the surge in 2020. So let's give him a huge, huge round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
Abhinav, you've done. So, one thing I've understood is from all the conversation we've gathered, a quick 1 minute on that is that, with our events going digital and hybrid, the audience definitely has increased. So a show which was initially happening just in one place now could happen physically, virtually in many other places, and that's what happened even in certain of my shows when I would be hosting, and now of course being hired by different vendors across globally because of the fact that now a lot of spend on the resources which earlier would have happened on the flights and hotels have definitely reduced. So the options have opened, and it's good to know that. Now, I won't be doing much on the talking. We delve on to the next part of our discussion. First, we'll talk on the challenges, and then the most interesting bit is on the virtual engagement. How do we make it more engaging for our audience? So, Anil, I'm going to come to you firstly. Anil, brilliant work once again on the marathon bit. I'd really like to know firstly, Anil, how can you just tell us about the challenges overall, Anil, you have faced when it comes to executing, which earlier used to be the really big, huge physical events, to now being virtual events? We'd love to hear from you.
Well, comparatively, the challenge, funnily enough, has been equal because, we've been a thoroughbred sports management company. We are also promoters because we own what we do. And to shut a city down, especially in the earlier years, was a serious challenge, to get that message across. But look, challenges is not that's not the criteria or the measurement thing that we need to worry about. Challenges are there for anything new, interesting, innovative, that's life. And we need to be prepared for that day in and day out. But I think what is important is, and especially from our angle and our lens, we are not only, sports today on a canvas is split between spectator sport and participative sport. So of course, spectator sport being you're watching it unfolds in front of you. Two teams or two players play, and you are part of that sort of a fabric. But participative sport is a completely different animal. It's about all of us being a part of it. Not only just part of it on a global sporting iconic property, thing like the Tata Mumbai Marathon is today, I think, the 6th largest marathon in the world, and it's truly iconic. So to be a part of it, to be a part of London Marathon, to be a part of New York, now when these are major, and it's a very different dynamic that comes in. So the challenge for us was even more because participative sport is about participating. But here's what happened. There's an interesting perspective to it too. And that was that if you look at, we can only accommodate 50,000 people at a Tata Mumbai Marathon. And we know that we can get close to 1 million participants if we so chose to open it up. But of course, the city is not big enough, the event cannot accommodate it, and that's the way it is. And hence, but today, with the entire digital thing, and in fact, we actually started it in 2020 January. Finally, our first initiative at that time was before the pandemic even set in, a few months before that. And we did, we call it the Tata Mumbai Marathon Run as One concept. And at the same time, and now we made it a little, but at the same time, millions of hundreds of thousands across the world could be part of the Tata Mumbai Marathon, run it at the same time, create your own course, and actually physically run it, not just run it on your sort of machine, but actually get out there and run it. But you could do it at your time. You can do it in your surrounding. You still get all the goodies that go with it. Whether you register, you link your timing chip to it, and the bib and the entire feeding. In fact, we even tried to create other touch points, like you could actually create a course which was somehow like to copy how Mumbai would fold out. You know what I mean? So various different initiatives. So what we found was that, and we just started literally about 10 days, we launched it. And we had about another 8,000 people who ran it at that time itself. And that, of course, has been multiplying exponentially. And today we can have close to another 150,000 people running your same event. So it's, you can touch more, you can engage more, you can get your messaging across. You can even make it very interactive. How many places can you go for a training run with Eliud Kipchoge talking to you on your thing and taking you through that process. So there are lots of great stuff, but I will say one thing. We've got this new sort of mantra, the digital thing. I just think there's nothing like touch and feel. There's nothing like being live. Nothing ever will overtake that or beat that. But what is fantastic is that we've got a whole new world to make part of us. You know what I mean? So it's fantastic that way. But let's not forget, the real thing is the real thing, and that will never, ever be diminished in any level or any sort of lens.
Absolutely, Anil. You're absolutely bang on there that there's an entire new dimension, an entire new world which has been created now, which even the audience is now used to it. Had there not been a pandemic, we wouldn't be used to sitting and watching these events on a platform, be it a small screen or a big screen. So thank you for that, Anil. Great pointers right there. Deepak, coming to you, we'd love to know the kind of challenges you faced with the multiple events which you've done.
So Anil, when you say run, yes, run, you have to run. You can't be sitting in on virtual world and run. But yes, we sometimes are making people do that, Engagement has become the different normal out here. See, we are doing a lot of work. So I would say, first of all, 30% of your business today, what we used to do, it's an incremental business. It's not a business that it is going to eat away from the physical world.
Well said. Yeah.
So physical world business is going to be there. In fact, it may roar more. But then, because as I said earlier, geography has become history and people are joining in from all over the world. Businesses are across. In fact, people are hiring. Companies, larger giants, if you look at it, are no more hiring. They have people sitting in Ludhianas or Jalandhars or anywhere for that matter, and they're working in the company. Unilevers and giants like this. So people, when we do events, all our events actually start from 4 to 8 evening, because 4 o'clock Sydney joins and 8 o'clock US joins. So that's why I say geography is history, So looking at that, engagements have changed. Format of engagements have changed. Leaderboards and things of those sort. Gaming platform that we create. See, venue, as we say, the 3D environments. In fact, some people are getting little this about those 3D environments. There are different kind of in 3D. You can just give a 3D guy. We used to do this. I think for the last 20 years, we've been doing those 3D environments. Okay. It's just that it's a movement, it's an animation, it's a feel-good situation, it's a small AVI file. It's the experience and the ease of operating. People don't want to understand technology. They have low internet bandwidth. So you start putting heavy duty stuff on their machines, start making them do basic. आपको बताऊं, photo booth इतना बड़ा click है, लोग जाके photo निकालते हैं. Photo booth ho gaya, leader boards ho gaye, puzzles ho gaye. So there are a lot of engagement that you can create. R&Rs is something that people love doing. See, R&Rs can't be done like normally how we do meetings, So there and where the animation of awards are coming. So I have seen it's back to what we do in the physical world at the console and at the backstage. It's the same thing. We are just changing the venue to a screen or a virtual platform. That's it. So I think more of that is something, and I would say events need to be shorter. Okay, it's like watching a movie. It has to be very engaging. Bhavna, like you know how important it is. You are a person who drives that one virtual event, So unless that engagement is not built, unless that content is not created, unless the event flow is not well planned, it is going to be, there is a fatigue which is coming in on the virtual world. How do we remove that fatigue? It's become very, very critical for all of us today. And I think there's a big question mark there. Even I can't answer that question. And how do I remove the fatigue? So there is where Anil says, get out from that bloody computer and come outside and run. So that's how it is going to be in future. That incremental business is what we are striving for, and more engagement. Another point I will make out here, very interesting one. In fact, what we are working on is multiple studios across the world. Okay, today we have a studio now in Mumbai, a large 5,000 square feet studio that we have built. And what we are doing out here is something else. We are using Unreal as a technology. Okay, I think the tech boy out here, Abhinav, would be watching for it when I say Unreal and how I am using Unreal and how in future if you look at Gladiators, a movie was created in one box, one room. Okay, so we are going to make that business very easy, delivering content on OTTs like how they've been delivering or other places. So we are trying to create these studios which people can access easily. And if they don't want to go out and do a 500,000 people's workplace event, then it is something that we would organize for them virtually. That incremental business is what we'll organize for them.
That's very interesting, Deepak. Well said. The pointers which you've put out right from the incremental business and also on the fatigue which you're setting in the how does one, resolve to that and, new ideas coming in from everyone. And I think all of us are learning from this experience and brilliant minds like all of you working on it. I'm sure there'll be great things happening. So thank you for that, Deepak. Rabindra, I'm coming right to you, Mr. Narayan. How's it been for you in terms of executing these, the awards you said, the challenges, what you faced? If you could just highlight a few and let the audience know on that. Over to you, sir.
The biggest challenge you face is the mindset. How do you convince people that this can be done? This can be done well, with the same passion, same effect. That's the biggest challenge. Once you've conquered that, the rest is technical details. Do I build a set in 3DS? Do I build it on a virtual mode? How do I go about it? And then how do I train my celebrities to adapt their performances into a virtual mode? And they know that they're not getting a feedback from the audience. They're performing on a chroma sort of a background. They're imagining that this is happening, that is happening. There are fireworks happening, there's happening, but that's all happening digitally. They can't even feel it or see it. To be able to match that feeling with their performances, that's one challenge. And I think that's the only challenge I would say per se. Rest all is very, very easy. For everybody else, it's very, very easy then to execute it and to enjoy it.
Right.
That's a very, very likely. And then similarly, we took it forward. We did e-concert. We did e-concerts from studios. We did e-concerts from musicians in different cities, vocalists in different cities, and timing the sync sound so that there is no time lag between the music received and music being broadcast. And that was a big challenge. You have to virtually fine tune it until you reach a point when every musician has figured out that there will be this 20-second delay and there will be this much delay, and I have to play as per that so that the right beat, the right sound, the right words merge together into an ideal live sort of performance. That was the biggest challenge for us.
Right.
So we've been experimenting, we've been turning things around. This year we'll become the first Indian company to produce a web series in 360-degree virtual reality mode.
Okay.
We've been the first company in the world to do virtual reality 360-degree telecast every day live. Nobody else does live virtual reality. And this pandemic taught us how to go about it. From the Golden Temple, we broadcast Gurbani all over the world. And now, with the pandemic, people could not go there. And those who used to go there were missing it. And then we discovered that we can do it. So we engaged a higher bandwidth in a 4K sort of a scenario. And we could start streaming, built our own player, and start streaming it in 360-degree virtual reality real time. And it proved a boon to so many people. We received so many blessings that you take out your mobile, put it onto a headset like this, wear it, and your mind and body tells you that you are actually sitting there listening to Gurbani. And that was amazing. It gives you tremendous satisfaction when you are able to marry technology into conquering people's feelings and their minds into believing that they are part of it. Once they become part of your event, part of your telecast, part of your virtual thing,
right,
then you conquered it. Then you've actually hit it. Then you're actually in the right direction.
Absolutely. Great pointers right there on how, gotten the point also from the audience angle, that how, what was their mindset initially. And that's one pointer I think, we all missed in the conversation so far. But thank
I'll
you.
tell you what happened with us. We
Sure.
thought that we might not get the same hype and this and that. The audience is not used to doing this.
Absolutely.
Actually, it proved the other way. There was so much of curiosity. They wanted to see how they're doing it. I mean, people said that hoodwink, it's not going to be so. Some artists will be standing in the studio and they're saying virtual this, that. But actually, when the audience came in, it was amazing. 4.6 million viewers watching it on Facebook and YouTube. We had never had it before.
No, that's great. Kudos. Absolutely. Yeah.
And the fact was, this was world's first virtual award ceremony happening. Oscars got cancelled. This got cancelled, and the Punjabi channel trying to do this. So there was curiosity, and everybody wanted to see how it is happening. And we got the audience.
Lovely. And I can understand why these events are doing so brilliant. Ravindraji, you have got such immense, great energy on the screen that definitely once you be conveying it to your team, everyone's on the same page. So thank you for that, Ravindraji, for those pointers. Abhinav, I'll come quickly to you. We've got only around 13 minutes left now. I'd like to know your challenges which you faced in a couple of your events, if you can highlight shortly. And then we'll quickly go to all of you for 2 minutes each on engagement tips. Abhinav, over to you.
Sure, thank you. So I'll save your time. What Ravindraji said, the mindset is actually the real challenge that everyone faces. I'll give you a real example. We have worked with almost probably 80 plus event agencies in last 1 year. And the challenge is that all of these event managers were actually hosting physical events throughout their life. And not just agencies, but also the people in the brands, corporate and everywhere. And when you tell them that there is going to be a virtual stage, which they cannot touch, they raise their eyebrows saying, how do I believe something like this will happen, right? So that's one big challenge. Second big challenge is that I think a lot of people do not understand the power of the data that gets curated during these virtual events. When you go to a physical, event, I used to interact with someone. Probably I'll drop my business card. Probably I'll speak to them, take their brochure. But as an organizer, people will never come to know who I interacted with. Now, fast forward, after doing hundreds of events, what we learned, now these organizers know exactly what I am doing on the platform so that they can target, retarget, remarket, re-reach you with the exact proposal which is more suitable for you. I think that was the real challenge that people were not understanding this year, especially, in March, we launched a new version of Vertex, where we, created some very different sort of AI-enabled algorithms that allows us to give these organizers some more insights about, what this person would be interested, so that the real-time offers can be done. We recently hosted India's largest property tech expo, for a brand. And what we learned that now they also know that these sort of people who are actually looking for a 4 BHK can actually buy a real bungalow, next to the 4 BHK or in the same building set. So this is something was the real challenge, but now I think it's slowly over.
Right. Absolutely, Abhinav, a brilliant point out there, earlier, like how a social media company would give analytics on what's happening where, and then you can position and target accordingly. Now with the virtual platform, and I've seen those analytics happen on what time, who is exchanging cards, it's so precise that, it really helps a company understand on how to execute. So definitely a good pointer right there. So, we've got 10 minutes. Quickly, I'd like to understand from all of us, and there's also an audience question I'll squeeze in. Firstly, what are the steps event tech companies are taking to ensure smooth events, which we've already spoken about on that front. But, if it, in terms of differently abled audience, now that's a definite, segment, if any of you have done on it, I'd love you to highlight in the next course of discussion. So my first question is, of course, on the engagement tips, and do you feel hybrid is the way to go? So we'll keep 2 minutes each. I'm apologetic on the time. We've just got a few more minutes left. Starting with Anilji, if we can come to you. Engagement tips, sir, and...
So in terms of differently abled, that's a very big part. That's a very big part of our life, whether it's live or whether it's virtual. So that's something we've always have included, and it doesn't change.
Right.
It's the same thing if you're if you're differently abled or you are fully healthy and fit. So it's the same principle. You can still be a part and the community grows. You can reach out, you can converse more, interact more. So I think it doesn't matter what form you are about, it helps everybody. The other thing I think about hybrid, of course, because what you are bringing in is value. What you're bringing in is connectivity, is interactivity, is curation, is innovation, is learning. It's so many different aspects. So hybrid, of course, but always remember that never lose sight of the main story, which is the physical property.
Absolutely.
The day you lose sight of it and the day you start giving equal weightage, this is my thinking, and I'm not talking about curation or innovation. Don't take that lens into this, but this should be a mirror of this with added features, with added touch points, with added information, with added ability, those kind of things. But never lose sight of this, because if this in any way fails to this, you've got a problem. You've got a serious problem. And lastly, I'll also say this. So therefore, hybrid for sure, because it just creates value on every level. But more importantly, I think even people, what has happened is that, and one more thing we must realize, and I'll make this as quick as possible, events that have got history, legacy, recognition, brand will do way better on digital, because to see new things with the hundreds of different different options there, it's difficult. So always, don't ever forget to create a brand identity whenever you're launching whatever you're launching. If it's got history, if it's got legacy, great. But if you're launching something on digital, new property, make sure you don't forget creating the value, the brand, the positioning, the brand speak of it, because that will help you make it bigger in time to come, even if it's just digital. Treat it like you would treat anything else you're feeling. And lastly, I'll end by just saying this. It has given us great insight, and it has given even brands and advertisers and people, because they have now been forced to relate to what empathy, humanity, wellness, respect, integrity, whether it's there or not there, they've learned to understand that difference. They've learned, because everybody has been impacted through this pandemic, tragically. It doesn't matter whether it's health, finance, mental stability, or whatever. So I think we're going to come back a stronger, a way better world, a way more valuable and a more integrated society. So I think that's the way forward.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Anil, for that. I'll quickly move on to Deepak. Deepak, your closing thoughts on hybrid events, and also if you could just answer on the question from the audience, if you'd have any contribution there.
Yeah, I think virtual events have itself solved that problem of going closer to the differently able people to begin with. Okay. Tomorrow, in fact, we are doing one event for Pratik Foundation, which is an international show where there are around, I think, 18 odd bands performing all day long. And there is some kind of while the communication is happening, sign language is also used during. So you can actually witness that. You would see it on Facebook. It's a large event that's happening. So that's part of it. I think good amount of virtual events are taking care of that. No doubt we would not, because we are not bringing people out there on the hybrid events. I think EMA, or for that matter, all our event companies are following all the SOPs for working towards for differently abled people. And that's how the event functionality is built in, because all these functionalities are built in right now. Now, let me address that question of engagement part of it. Okay. So here I would say, go live. I would say, don't use this recorded format. I only do live shows. I don't like getting into these recorded events. No doubt many companies are a little worried about that. And while going chroma, how do we, so we bring at 6 different countries, people live on one stage at one time. And that is live. Okay. Also, I would say the host becomes a very, very important person to choose during your virtual event. So let that virtual event be shorter to begin with. choose a great virtual host who knows how to engage. There are different hosts we have figured out for different kind of engagements that are there today, and we have good amount of good hosts available in India today. Also try bringing the person closer. Go on Chroma so that because person feels closer. These square windows or rectangle windows have become very so moment you go closer, there is some difference out there. So these are besides that, I think leaderboards and other engagement formats. There are many engagement formats that are engaging there, asking people to keep their cameras on and gaming zones and there. So I'm saying I think virtual events are going to be fun. Moving forward with Unreal technology getting into it, I think good amount of events will turn virtual and there will be good fun happening on those events. So engagement is a part which everybody is working towards. So and it's not something which is a proprietary thing of anyone. Like we have something called V Games. We have created an entire environment called V Games. Many of the event companies are using. There are 400 games there which you can play virtually, and people use our links to then engage people further.
Right. Thank you for that, Deepak. Telling that it's better to go live even if it's in a virtual event, but rather than record it, live is the way you prefer. So that's a great pointer right there. Rabindra,
So sorry to butt in, but there's a very famous saying in sport: if it ain't live, it ain't sport.
Yes.
Absolutely. And you're from the live and experiential industry, so definitely, why not? Rabindra ji, quickly, we've just got 2 minutes. I'm apologetic on that. I'd just like to know your view on hybrid events. If you could just let us know your and Abhinav views after that. Over to you, sir.
Broadly, I agree with Deepak's point of view.
Right.
If you're live, the engagement is more. And plus, your host or the main anchor is not just the guy who can act well or speak well. The person must know the technology also now, because the technology is going to be riding on their back. They will be handling things live, they'll be coordinating things. If there's a speaker whose mic is on and creating disturbance, how do I mute it? How do I put it? All of this is now becoming the part of the host job instead of just the back team and all that. A lot of things are coming. Now, as far as the differently abled people is concerned, this has been actually a boom. A lot of people who could not go and attend these events physically are able to attend it. Those who had to be conveyed what was being said through sign languages, now we have closed captioning. It's available in Hindi and English. And regional languages still being worked out. A lot of people, a lot of companies are working on it. We're working with a US-based company to convert Punjabi into also captioning, real-time captioning. Like it's once that happens, then all your problems for differently able people at least are solved in terms of attending and comprehending what is happening.
Right. No, absolutely. Great point right there, Rabindra. I'm going to quickly go on to Abhinav. Abhinav, your final thoughts, hybrid events. What's your take on that? How is it?
So absolutely. So that's not the future, that's the present now and will always be. I particularly feel that hybrid events also again need to be thought from staying away from a physical approach. The reason is, in hybrid, you're just thinking that some people will be online, some will be offline, but you also have sponsors, exhibitors, auditors, everyone. Some of them will always be online, some of them will always be offline. Then how do you think of connecting 5,000 people online to your 50 visitors who are physically available, or 50 expo booths who are physically there? So that's something that companies like us are working on. On the point of differently able, I think virtual experiences have opened a floodgate for various sophisticated technologies, from real-time captioning. We used it in probably 10% of our events, from text to speech. Google, Amazon, all of these people are working on creating very simplified APIs that every Tom can plug into their events. So those sort of things can be done. And engagement is a very clever thing here. Okay, while I can talk about polls and live notifications and everything, content is going to be playing the key role here. But also the simplicity of these platforms is extremely important for any audience to use. If I create we have done hundreds of events, I'll not quote the number, and many of them are 3D, some of them are 2D, and some of them are automated as well. So simplification of these platforms is something that I think is the future here. And considering 70% of your users will be joining your platform from mobile, so how do you simplify that experience? That is the future for event experiences or event tech companies like us.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Abhinav, for that. Your pointers, even from the technology point of view. And thank you so much, Anil, Rabindraji, Deepak, Abhinav, for joining us today. Wonderful notes for me, even as a host, to understand what is up in the industry, and so good to interact with the leaders. I'll quickly call upon our host for the event, Ravin, to join us on the stage and give in the closing. Thank you, Ravin, for being a brilliant host. We all have done our bit. We hope we could answer all the queries from the audience. Thank you all for joining us.